My topic is gun control. There's been a lot of controversy in recent years, especially following the incidents in Aurora, Colorado and Sandy Hook Elementary School about the restriction of firearms. Some people believe that such tragedies can be avoided if guns are banned, while others believe that guns are not the problem. Such a matter requires our utmost attention because legislative decisions on this matter can jeopardize lives or they can save them. My proposition is that banning guns will fail to protect the general population. I'll begin by explaining that banning guns endangers people, followed by an explanation of their failure to reduce crime rates, and finally that gun control is unenforceable. Many of my examples and statistics focus on handguns, which are a focal point of the debate as they are so easily carried and concealed. Now first, banning guns endangers people. A gun ban would result in an unfavorable distribution of guns. This is because of two linked concepts, the first of which criminologist Gary Kleck explains in his book. He says, the National Self-Defense Survey indicated that 1.326% of U.S. adults had used a gun defensively in the year preceding the survey. The National Criminal Violence Survey for 1992 indicated that about 0.456% of U.S. residents aged 12 and over had experienced a violent crime committed by an offender armed with a gun. Based on prevalence figures then, civilian experience with the defensive use of handguns appears to be about 3 times as common an experience as gun victimization. What this means is guns are used more often defensively than offensively in crimes, statistically. Now, with this idea in mind, we'll take a look at what Supreme Court correspondent Adam Liptak states. Criminals are the people least likely to obey gun control laws, meaning that the laws probably have a disproportionate impact on law-abiding individuals. Liptak then quotes law professor Eugene Volokh, who says, for the typical gun control law, you'll have a very little positive effect, but a possible negative effect. So if you take a look at how guns are used more often defensively than offensively, and how criminals are more likely to retain their guns after a gun ban, then what you have is a bunch of people who don't have any weapons to protect themselves and a lot of criminals who are going to use them for crime. Okay. Now, culminating these two examples, or these two concepts, I have an example that reflects the negative aspects of this. As more than 30 diners sat in Sam's St. John's Seafood in Jacksonville, Florida, about 7:20 p.m., a masked man entered the eatery and ordered everyone to the floor, said co-owner Sam Majaliet. The man grabbed waitress Amy Norton from where she and another waitress were huddled on the floor and tried to get her to open the cash register. At this point, Oscar Moore stood up and shot him. Another diner pulled out a .22 caliber Derringer and fired at the man as he ran out of the restaurant. At least one shot hit the fleeing robber. The robber was later arrested when he sought medical care for his wound. I'm glad they were there because if that girl couldn't open the register and he didn't get any money, he might have started shooting, Majaliet said. So, gun control does not protect people because it actually endangers them by removing their ability to protect themselves. Now for my next claim. Gun control fails to reduce crime rates, both domestically and internationally. John Lott states in his book that violent crime rates are highest in states with most restrictive rules, next highest in states that allowed local authorities discretion in granting permits, and lowest in states with non-discretionary rules. The difference is quite striking. Violent crimes are 81% higher in states without non-discretionary laws. Now, non-discretionary laws means that it's easiest to get a gun. So if you apply for the permit and you have the requirements for the permit, they legally have to give you one. Discretionary means that they have the ability to determine if your character shows that you should or should not have a gun. The same is true for other countries. For example, Luxembourg, where handguns are totally banned and ownership of any kind is minimal, had a murder rate 9 times higher than Germany in 2002. Now for my last claim. Guns are going to become more and more accessible than ever within the next few years because of new technologies such as 3D printing. 3D printing can produce unregistered and untraceable guns that are relatively cheap. According to NBC News, printer and the plastic combined can be bought for as little as $1,400, while an ideal setup would involve a higher-end 3D printer that normally sells for around $6,000, which neither of which are too out of the question for someone who's determined. And these guns can get through metal detectors because they have little or no metal in them, and enforcing the gun control would prove a challenge. And of course, if it cannot be enforced, then it cannot protect anyone. Now I've established that gun control endangers people, fails to reduce crime rates, and that it is unenforceable. The combination of these 3 points allows us to see that gun control fails to protect the general population. Thank you.
Ryan, the topic's introduced very clearly. You've got a clear statement of what the proposition is, a very clear layout of what the secondary claims are, so I think that's fine. The signpost on the first point was good. You kind of explain what the issue is and then make a declarative statement on it. I thought that was good. The whole first point, you have a variety of information that you're presenting to advance that claim, and then I like at the end of the first point, before you transition to the second point, that you've got an example to try and illustrate the point that you just made. So I thought that was a good way of building the argument, kind of a little bit backwards. People frequently go the other direction, but in this particular case, that seemed to make a lot of sense, using the example to illustrate the principles that you just talked about. I thought you were very consistent in citing evidence, and you had a variety of authorities and statistical information to show some of your points. I'm not exactly sure why Belgium, was it Belgium? Luxembourg and Germany are the ones being compared. I know that that's what the author came up with in making that inference. And how comparable they would be in terms of populations or culture or the laws. I think that needs to be a little bit more explored. The information, I know the inference that you're drawing from it seems reasonable given what you've got. Like I said, I thought you were very consistent in citing the information that you have. The argument in the third point about the 3D guns and the printers is an interesting one. I'm not exactly sure that it goes as far in proving that third point as you need to go. I think they're probably, imagine a world without having the 3D printing technology. Would the laws still be workable? I think that you're kind of putting all of your eggs in that one basket on that third point, and there's probably more diverse arguments to be made on this issue. Not that the argument that you made was bad in and of itself. I'm just not sure that it's adequate in order to support the third supporting point that you're presenting. I thought the presentation was nicely put together. You're a little low-key when you're delivering that, but sometimes on an issue like that, it's a good idea not to be foaming at the mouth, passionate. You want people to think that you're acting in a rational way, thinking about these issues. All right.